Everybody for sticking around. So I put a lot of planning into being the most memorable part of the afternoon session, but since my green cape idea was stolen before I even got up here, I have to come up with something else to get your attention. Commercial building energy efficiency. When I was in high school back in the 1980s, I worked in the summer with my father, and I can remember working on projects for energy storage that were given rebates under Con Edison's rebate programs at the time. 1991, I took my first job and met thousands of small business owners working on energy efficiency programs of Con Edison, Central Hudson, Orange and Rockland, and Lilco. Some 20 years later, with some like-minded, like-experienced individuals, I founded a company called Lime Energy that was built just to attack this still difficult problem of commercial building energy efficiency. And after 9 years of success, I can tell you that we still see far more opportunity than we see results. I'm going to try to distill down that 30 years of experience and put it in the context of a renewed energy vision. I'm going to do that in three parts. First, I'm going to talk about how important energy efficiency is and how fundamental it is to the REV initiative and the REV's 2030 goals. Then I'm going to talk, secondly, about the commercial building energy efficiency market in particular. What's distinct about it? What's unique about it? Then I'll talk about the evolution, some of the innovation that's gone on in the space in New York State, and finish up with a little bit about where we're headed. So by a show of hands, I'm curious, the attendance says a lot. Across the broad energy spectrum and the grid and even broad distributed energy resources, how many folks in the room spend the majority of their time on making buildings more energy efficient? Show of hands. Okay, it's a relatively small number. It's interesting. So energy efficiency is fundamental to the success of REV. Just how important is it that we make our buildings more energy efficient? We're going to look at it first in the context of the three overarching REV goals for 2030. Goal number one, a 40% reduction in emissions. So where do those emissions come from? In New York State, more than half of all emissions come from the energy that's used in buildings, right? So we don't stand much of a chance at 40%, let alone 80%, if we don't make significant gains in making our buildings more efficient. So that's goal number one. Second goal is the all-important, often discussed goal of 50% renewable generation by 2030. Now, if you'll bear with me here, I try not to go too data heavy, but this pie chart shows the current generation breakdown. In New York State, we've got the luxury of a wonderful hydro legacy that gives us a head start on 50% renewables, right? But that yellow wedge is very big, and it's got a very big price tag. And we have energy efficiency goals. We have a clean energy standard, and if we can meet them by 2030, this second pie chart, smaller, drives down the size and the cost of that yellow wedge, right? So the cost of the energy efficiency initiative is $500 million. The net savings of ratepayers of as much as $2 billion, right? So if we can hit our energy efficiency goal, we can drive down the cost of our other goals, right? We have, if you were going to put a solar plant on your house, you would most certainly make all cost-effective investments in lowering your energy load in your house before you size the solar plant, right? So why, as an industry, would we expect ratepayers to pay for renewable generation to generate the energy that they waste, right? That doesn't make much sense. So goal number two is actually pretty tied up in making buildings more energy efficient. Goal number three, and this is actually the goal that makes the first two goals cost-effective and realistic. It is, in fact, 23% decrease in building energy consumption. For all of its successes, ETIP delivered 35 trillion BTUs of energy efficiency. So this is the electric savings through the EAPS period, EAPS 1 and 2. 35 trillion BTUs. The projections, although the goals currently are a little bit low, the projections for ETIP is to deliver another 17. So the area represented by the green circle and the yellow circle will have taken us 13 years to accomplish, which will leave us within a decade of our 2030 target date. And our target date goal is 600 trillion BTUs of energy savings. And that's represented by the blue dot, right? And that's a really big blue dot. So we're talking about a sea change in the amount of energy efficiency that we get, the energy efficiency resources that are required by the grid, the amount of energy savings in buildings. And I want to be very clear. It is this goal that makes goals 1 and 2 cost-effective and realistic. Okay, second part of the presentation, I'm going to talk about commercial building energy efficiency. I'm going to ask two big questions. The first big question is, who's in charge of New York State's energy efficiency goal? Who has signing authority, right? If you're a salesman, you want to know who can sign off on things. So There's a lot of people in the room in government regulatory who get to set goals and mandates, set up earnings adjustment mechanisms. We've got utility folks that design and implement programs. You got a lot of folks in the room like Lime Energy that make proposals like this all day long, right? But in fact, the people that sign off on every single kilowatt hour we've gained or will gain are these people, right? It's the people who own the buildings and or run businesses in the buildings. That's the target audience, right? Which brings us to big question number 2, who cares about energy efficiency? Spoiler alert, the people who decide how efficient a building is going to be during construction have already decided against an energy efficient, a cost-effective investment in energy efficiency, right? That, in addition to evolving technology, the main reason we have this opportunity is because of first cost decisions in construction, right? So one of the reasons these people haven't been better partners in energy efficiency is because while it varies based on the type of business and the type of building, energy usage is usually a low single-digit percentage of the overall operating cost of a business, right? We know that at Lime Energy that these folks are not that concerned about this because we talk to hundreds of them every day, as some of you in the room do. The world knows it because of surveys like this one. The National Federation of Independent Businesses conducts a survey every 4 years, loosely titled the What Keeps Small Business Owners Up at Night. So I looked through this, I said, I know I can find a proof source to demonstrate to everybody what I already know, which is that these people don't care about energy efficiency. So I found way down at number 19 on the list, I found electricity costs, and I said, aha, I got it. So there's my proof source. Now there's a survey of all of these businesses nationally. It proves my point. It's 19. That means there's 18 things they wake up worrying about before they get to this. But I made the slide, and then I said, just out of curiosity, I wonder what they think about even less than electricity costs. And way down at number 53 on the list, I actually found what we're talking about, right? Reducing energy use in a cost-effective manner. That's what we mean when we say energy efficiency. Number 53. And I don't know how many of you get to number 53 on your to-do list, but I can assure you that small business owners do not. So, there they go. Who cares about energy efficiency? I do. And based on a show of hands, a bunch of you do. I think that all of you do in terms of meeting these REV goals, as we've already discussed. But I want to be very clear about the two things that we've talked about. Energy efficiency is hugely important to meeting all of REV's goals. It's fundamental that we acquire all the cost-effective energy efficiency in the buildings as we move towards 2030. And the second thing is it's really hard to get. And the folks in this room need to get it in their mindset and their culture, which was talked about earlier, as we approach these folks, that we're going to have to do this in partnership with people who don't care about energy efficiency, because we care about energy efficiency. Now, what's the good news, Adam? The good news is innovation, of course, and there's been lots of it. It's happened in the residential space, multifamily space, it's happened in government and institutional buildings, and I'm going to talk to you real quickly about some of the evolution in the approach we take to commercial building energy efficiency. So over the last 8 years, Lime and a handful of competitors have worked with our utility partners to evolve the traditional small business direct install model into an integrated service approach where we provide the customer with the ease of participation that they need, and we provide the utility with the risk mitigation that they want. Today, utilities only pay for delivered and in many cases verified kilowatt hours of efficiency. This open protocol program has enabled bringing in new technologies. We've been responsible for LED technology, refrigeration and controls technology being added. Third-party financing has further improved the adoption rates in these commercial direct install programs in the state. So today, the utility puts out an RFP, and we still call these programs, but it's effectively an energy efficiency resource bid. It's an auction. And companies like Lime and SmartWatt and Willdan and a handful of others put in proposals for a fixed kilowatt hour price to deliver a volume of energy efficiency. All the marketing, the sales, the procurement of the materials, the implementation of the projects, it's all covered. We don't get paid for that. We get paid virtually in a PPA, power purchase agreement, for megawatt hours with an N. And there's been a lot of investments made. The state's benefited greatly. And the good news is that the companies and the innovations can easily be translated into the DER market that REV envisions. How much success? More than half of all kilowatt hours or half of all energy savings delivered through EAPS 1 and 2 came through these commercial direct install programs. It came at an average resource cost of about 2.5 cents, although that resource cost today is down to about 1.5 cents. The economic development benefit of these programs would have been worth it without the energy efficiency. These 80,000 businesses have permanently had their operating costs reduced, and they've had their facilities upgraded and refreshed with new equipment. So that's these folks, again, remember them? Well, they do care about staying in business, and these programs have certainly helped them with that. So, innovation, check. Private capital, check. Energy efficiency resource bidding, a market for energy efficiency resources, check. The commercial building energy efficiency market in New York State was revved up and ready to go when the governor announced the renewed energy vision. Where are we today? Well, this blue line shows all energy efficiency resources acquired or planned to be acquired by utilities. It shows it building up in EAPS 1, peaking in EAPS 2, and dropping off under the ETIP programs. All right, so this is concerning given the ramp we need as based on hitting these 2030 goals. And it's very concerning when you look at the fact that the cost of the energy efficiency to the utility has been driven down significantly, right? So that market that REV envisions is based on getting rid of programs that cap what we're doing, right? But we haven't done that. In fact, if your distributed energy resource happens to be energy efficiency in New York State, all you've seen under REV is that those artificial caps of program budgets have been cut in half, as has Lime's workforce in New York State and the workforce of many other companies like us. So what we've effectively done by driving that price down, I want to be very clear, the cost of doing energy efficiency in a building has not gone down, and it certainly isn't going to go down as we necessarily get deeper and wider with customers and measures. What we've done is we've reduced the cost of the efficiency to the utility. We've driven up the cost to the participant, right? We have flipped the free rider equation, where we used to worry about participants not paying their fair share. Now it's in fact utilities and society that are trying to get over on the backs of the participant, the business implementing the project. And it's very dangerous, as I noted earlier, to expect these businesses to continue to make investments that don't make sense to them for the sake of the benefit to the utility and society. So, scaling energy efficiency in New York, a couple of ideas. One thing is, in the utility program industry, we look at 3% participation in a market segment as a success. We celebrate 40% close rates on proposals. But what REV needs to figure out is how do we get to the 60% of people that say no to a perfectly good investment in energy efficiency? And how do we get to the myriad folks that we don't even approach because they're so unlikely to say yes? It serves us to look at why they say no. And the two main reasons are they don't have the capital or it's too good to be true, meaning they don't believe in the savings. The solution to this is in the market today. It's unleashing private capital for pay for performance. Right? Someone needs to invest on the customer side of the meter in projects that customers are either unwilling or unable to invest in. Lime Energy has been investing in low-cost metering for many years. When REV came out, we focused our solutions on how it could work in that market. Today, we're able to give utilities, third-party M&V firms, and the customer insight into how the energy efficiency resource is performing in real time. We give a customer a proposal. For no money down, their bills go down immediately. They don't lift a finger, they get all new equipment, right? And they do it under a performance contract where they have no risk of negative cash flow. This is a big evolution. This is going on today at pilot scale in New York. The commercial building energy efficiency industry, in summary, is prepared today to make the energy efficiency resource as measurable and verifiable and reliable as the kilowatt hour generated. We're prepared to put this information in the hands of customers. We're prepared to unleash the products and services that REV envisions. And the low-cost metering of today can be the gateway, literally and figuratively, to these products and services of the future. Just to wrap up, in fairness to REV, it has many, many goals. Many of them go well beyond 2030. Many of them are qualitative. But I want to be very clear that while we're trying to do some things for the first time and be innovative in New York, it does serve us to look at common threads of success in other states and in New York previously. And energy efficiency first is an absolute common thread where energy plans have had success. While it's last on this list, remember that energy efficiency makes all these other things more cost effective. So where do we go from here? I think that from a government regulatory standpoint, we need to consider all of these innovations and the progress that's been made and send a signal. We have a clean energy standard. We need to enforce it. We need to get utility executives. It's incumbent upon the Public Service Commission to get utility executives excited about investing on the customer side of the meter and helping their customers use energy more efficiently. Then we need those utility executives, when this is at scale, to get very excited about these investments, pursue all cost-effective energy efficiency. Build on the energy efficiency resource bidding that's going on in commercial direct install programs today. The project aggregators will continue to invest, I can assure you. We've all made a lot of investment already. From our standpoint, we'll be very happy when there are many Lime Energies pointing their machines towards this market as we've done. And I think what we're all after is what the REV architects are looking for, what I know the utilities want. It's engaged, empowered, and satisfied customers. So with that, I hope I've left a little bit of time for questions. And I thank you all for your time and attention.
So one of the questions that came in here is, where do you get your capital to support the no money down offer you described?
So Lime Energy to date has gotten the capital from our balance sheet. So it's been very difficult as a growing small company, but we finance these projects over short terms on our balance sheet. Those are periods up to 24 months. As we look to go further than that, we have financial partners that include equipment leasing companies and banks, small regional banks. We are working today to try to hammer out something on a larger scale with some larger banks and talking to the New York Green Bank.
Great. And you talk a lot about the SMB sector, right? So is there a customer education barrier for you there? And what are you doing to overcome that?
Right. So we've done a lot of work to try to overcome that. There is an education barrier. In the end, I don't think it's really about educating the customer on the nuances of this industry. It's hard enough to educate ourselves on that. But there is, with small businesses, they really just don't have the time. It's this ease of participation that they're looking for. They really have to have it done for them. It wouldn't do any good for us to go in, for example, audit the facility, make a proposal, and leave them with a paper proposal that's got a list of contractors on the back, right? Call one of these approved contractors. They'll come and do the job for you. Those go nowhere. Small businesses have those on the shelf, right? So it's this ease of participation, this direct install approach that's been critical with the SMB segment. And I want to just add that the SMB, we focus on buildings with a peak demand of 300 kW and lower. Most of the CDI programs in New York State define their customers that way today. In the United States, we're talking about 96% of all commercial buildings, right? Only 4% of commercial buildings are greater than 300 kW peak demand. So that accounts for about 50% of the energy usage. But importantly, it accounts for far more than 50% of the opportunity in energy efficiency, because the 4% of biggest buildings have already had the wherewithal to make those types of investments.
Great. And just as a last one over here, how do you see energy efficiency incentives, either state or utility, changing under REV?
So far, they've gone down. Smaller budget, try to use it more cost effectively, and so they're trying to spread that over as many customers as they can. But of course, in energy efficiency, the cheaper kilowatt hour is the cream skimming kilowatt hour, or it's rewarding the person that's got the longest run hours or uses their equipment the most. I see the vision of REV being that we don't have incentives the way we've had them in the past, but we have a market for energy efficiency. NYSERDA is talking about a pilot to do energy efficiency bidding or auctioning. And again, I think that what we've done in the small business direct install space in New York State has us on the verge it has us ready to respond to such an auction or an RFP that sets a price at the value. The key is setting the price at the value of energy efficiency. The gap between the price of energy efficiency, $1.50 cents a kilowatt hour utilities are paying today through incentive programs, and the value of energy efficiency, which is considerably more, that's where the REV needs to make sure that people are being paid the value of energy efficiency, as Andy Frank said earlier.
Yeah, I think on that note, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Thanks, everybody.